and then we will join them in their feelings, but only when it's sincere. Listen to what they have to say, and then join them in what they're doing. Sometimes a person will say, don't do that. Listen, it's an impulsive reflex. They didn't want to do it. They did it the same reason you bet your eye. Something came toward it. Nobody has to tell you. So if we do that, then we'll be able to help. Now, that's for the short term. But for the long term, all of us here will be comforted by what Jehovah has promised us, and we will in fact be able, while this is a funeral, this is a death, while we will always be aware of that, and our emotions will be affected in the same way that any fellow human's emotions are affected. But what we will do, we will look at it differently, and we will be able to comfort one another. Now, what am I talking about? Let's begin. Acts chapter 6 and verse 5. Here the Bible tells us of a man named Philip. And he was one of the 7 certified men, that reputable men, 13 Bible, reputable men were chosen because of his faithfulness in his activity. Now here's what's interesting. In Acts chapter 21 verses 7, Philip had 4 daughters, and they were missionaries. Shea Brown Sr. and Annie Brown Hill, they had 4 sons, and boy, they were missionaries par excellence. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1. And what is called to our attention is the parents had to be involved in this. You remember your grand creator when? Remember then your grand creator in the days of your youth, before the days of distress come. So what the Bible is telling us, what Jehovah is telling us, what is going to be comforting to us, is to look at that person who is deceased and see whether or not what the Bible says he should have done, he did do, to the extent that he could. And in our case today, we have a man who was par excellent. Now, I met Charles in 1958. He and his brothers, Sam, Lee, and Shiv, came to Georgia Circuit number 22. Our circuit then was bigger than 2 of our districts now. Our circuit ran from Orangeburg, South Carolina to Florida and the whole of Georgia. And there are only a few people here who remember that, but there are a few. I met 1 or 2 of you today. Worldwide, In 1958, there were 653,273 publishers. That's how many of Jehovah's active witnesses there were. Charles was one of those. Charles served as a missionary. He moved from up in New York State to Georgia. Nobody in the North wanted to come to Georgia. Alabama worse, and Mississippi But now, look at this. In Deuteronomy chapter 34, Moses led the Israelites for 40 years. For 40 years before he died. Charles had served 20 years longer than Moses served. And Brother mentioned when he introduced our program that he served as a pioneer. And there are some of you who are pioneers now. But when Charles served as a pioneer, he spent 100 hours each month preaching. No credit hours, nothing like that. And he was able to successfully do that. And then, so that wouldn't satisfy him. So after he got married, he was a special pioneer, and now they had to spend 130 hours a month. And from there, he went to circuit overseer, and his life was just traveling from one place to another, week by week. Now, what's my reason for telling you that? So you can eulogize the man? No. You are looking at the acts of a modern day Christian. And when you think of Charles and any other faithful brother who died, then this is what you should think about. What kind of person did his life prove to be? And when you do, then you don't sorrow about that, you're glad about that. What a wonderful example. While as children, they lived in upper New York State, and all of the brothers would go to the society's farms and pick apples. This was in addition to their preaching work. It was totally separate. The first elder school that was held in the old Gilead location at South Lansing. Charles and I was in the 30th class, and we went back to South Lansing for a month to be trained in the work that we do. Charles excelled in that school, and that is why he was able to be used in the way that he was. When they came to Dublin, the four boys were together, and they came in this Volkswagen van. Most people here had never seen one, but they had this writing on it, and they were, radio and electronic, and they went into a very prejudiced town, but a lot of people had disabled television sets and radios, and so they were able to establish themselves quickly. We only had one publisher left. It was isolated. We had a circuit overseer named Joseph Howard. We called him the Baltimore Hammer because he was firm. And he separated the brothers. He said, we're going to send two of you to Cornell. Now in Dublin you had one publisher isolated. Cornell